So what we got here, guys, is the 2015 Mustang GT complete harness. This, from what I remember, is the body chassis harness, dash harness, and this part is the engine harness.
So what's up, you ever seen anything like this before?
Nah, both of them are wired up like I never seen before.
So what I regret is not labeling each connector, but under the circumstances of when I was taking this car apart, I didn't have a lot of time to label everything and figure out where everything came. I kind of just stripped it as quick as I could. It was at my buddy's house, so I didn't want to take up his time and space. So I ripped this whole thing out and I said, you know, when I go to put this back together, I'll figure it out. And here we are. So it looks like I started to label some of the harness, I guess, to give me some kind of starting point. This looks to be the left tail light, right tail light. What else we got? 2 module. Yeah, that really helps. Thank you, me. Trunk antenna. So I basically need to go through both these harnesses and start by each connector and figure out where everything goes.
All right, Jimmy. We'll just do what you can do, bro.
I got you.
Most people will completely get frustrated with this because there's a lot going on. It's a lot of wiring. But if you take your time and you take it one wire at a time and be patient, you can figure it out. So that's what we need to do. We just need to pick a spot to start and go from there. Most people get confused because when they're doing a swap like this, or you know, they're going to run a standalone engine management system like a Holley Terminator or something, you're mixing the body harness with the engine harness. So people get confused on that part of the wiring. If you're just doing a Coyote swap, a lot of people go with the Ford control pack because that's all you need to run the engine. You already have the stock foxbody harness to power your lights, the fuse box, all of that stuff. That is separate from what controls the engine. So if you guys are confused about that, there's 2 separate harnesses. But in this case, I am running the interior of the S550, the dash, the seats, everything. So It's a lot easier in my situation to keep the dash harness because it'll be plug and play. It'll be a lot harder if I just kept the stock foxbody dash harness and tried to wire that to the S550 interior. That just makes no sense. What I have to figure out is where these wires all go as far as laying them out on the car, where they plug into, the best spot I can put everything. I also want to hide all the wires that go to the engine, so we got to figure that out. So if you're doing a coyote swap, just get a control pack. You're keeping your foxbody interior. It makes no sense to buy a wrecked S550 and use that harness because there's also a lot of modules and stuff you need to run in order for the car to start. So get a control pack if you're just doing a coyote swap. If you're swapping an S550 interior, yes, get the complete harness, plug and play, done. Now this car wasn't an accident when I bought it. It was hit on the passenger side, and it looks to be that this either got really close to the headers, but I am extremely lucky and it doesn't appear that any of these wires have been melted through.
Yeah, they hot.
Just the protective tape. So dodged a bullet there, but even if these were damaged a little bit, it wouldn't be a big deal to resplice them and make them like new again. I might have to cut this harness and extend it depending on where everything is laid out. So that's why I have all this out, and we got to figure out where everything's gonna sit. Now there's also things that I'm going to have to retrofit, I guess you could say. This seems like it's the dome light that goes in the center of the headliner. So I'm gonna have to figure out if I'm gonna keep this, delete this. And if I do keep it, I'm gonna have to, you know, cut out a piece in the headliner, run the wires. So this is something I also have to think about. So my first plan of attack here is to lay out this harness as it was in the S550, you know, front to back, driver side, passenger side, as well as the engine harness, and go from there on how I can adapt it to the foxbody. All right, guys, I spent about 10 minutes, started trying to figure out what is what here. So first off, I started with this guy, since we got two of them, one there and one here. So one's gonna be the left side, one's gonna be the right side. So if we look on here, we can see that says left hand, LH. So driver's side, this probably goes along the door sill. This feeds a few of the modules that sit up front. There's a ground wire here. So if we follow this back, now some of this might go up towards the roof line. After that, I found this plug. So this is a plug to have the harness go to the underside of the car. So I first noticed that these look like some speed sensors. So I went over the diff, and this is the exact plug that goes there. Not even that, there's two of them. So we have a left and a right side. Follow this to this side. So this goes down to the diff. I'm sure there's a sensor for maybe the evap, some of that stuff. You can also tell how that's all nice and black and then it gets dirty. So that stays inside, and then from the grommet it goes outside. Also, when we first started, we had our tail light connectors here. There's our left tail light. So this goes towards the back of the car, that goes under the car. Then we got the tail lights harness, so that goes to the very back around the trunk. And then we have our antenna, which goes to the roof. So this probably goes along the roof line somewhere. So just by going off of that, you can already see that we figured out where some of this is going towards. Now I am looking and following the wires, and I'm kind of stuck on some of these connectors, but it does help to see if there's, you know, like both sides. You have two sides, so it could be headlights, tail lights, airbags, seat belts, seat power. I found this branch with the antenna, so this probably goes toward the center of the dash to power the radio and you know, all that other stuff. This one looks like it goes outside again under the car to plug into something, maybe for the transmission, could be O2 sensor harness. So if you get stuck, look for pairs. Also, there's part numbers on these parts, so you can just go to Google the part number, and it'll tell you what it is, and that'll give you a better idea where the stuff is. So hopefully that helps you if you're doing this, to try to, you know, start somewhere and figure out where the hell this stuff goes. All right, guys, I'm making a lot of progress here. Pretty much got 85% of this thing labeled. So driver's side kick panel, that goes to the door sill. This will go to the driver's seat like this. And we come down here. I believe this is a seatbelt and or airbag. These are similar to connectors. That guy, not sure yet. This goes under the rear seat to the fuel pump and to the fuel sender. And then this comes up towards the dash, I believe, possibly the center console area. Not 100% there yet. And then we come along here. This goes towards the dash. That's the passenger kick panel area, passenger door sill. This goes under the passenger seats. I figured that one out pretty easily because I noticed, well, I recognize these connectors as the seat connectors, and there's actually two pairs of these. There's one on the other side, so those are for the seats. Still haven't figured out what that guy is yet. Already went that way with the fuel stuff. A bunch of these wires kind of go up toward the roof line. I know that yellow connector right there is for the airbag. That funny looking thing is an amplifier, antenna amplifier. It's what the part number came up as. Not sure what that is yet. So this is also going along the driver roof line, and it comes toward the center of the car. This is the defrost for the rear window. This is the antenna. We got here third brake light. And then we have, this goes under the car to the diff. We got the speed sensors. It's possibly like an evap connector or something. And then this as well goes towards the back. These are for the rear speakers that sit on top of the back seats. And then we have our trunk harness. There's a couple modules back here. That one goes under the car, not sure what that is yet. Trunk antenna, and then the left hand tail light. So pretty much got a good idea of the harness here. So that's a rough idea where everything's going. So I also I got about, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 modules. I'm probably gonna pull those out and see where they connect to. So see what I can do there. All right, guys, so I whipped out the box of modules and I started terminating some of the ends. So we had a module here for those two connectors in the trunk area. And then come back over to the driver's side. We had this module. This thing's heavy, man. It's probably a good like 7, 8 pounds.
The GPS is spited into all that.
Two connectors for that guy. I also pulled out the pedal assembly. I thought some of those went to the pedal assembly, but I also found out that most of these connections for like the pedals are going to be already on the dash harness. I have a harness that's already on my dash, so most of them already are inside the car. And then we have a restraint control module. I think that's for seatbelts. And then looks to be the body fuse box. There's still a few ends here. And these are the modules that I could not find a connector for. So they're already either under my dash within that harness somewhere, or they're part of the engine harness. Now this is our ECU, so that's definitely part of the engine harness. This is our radio. I'm not sure this guy, that might be part of the engine harness too, because I can just tell it's dirty, like it's been sitting outside. This guy, not sure, possibly on the dash harness, and then same with this guy. So we found some of them, but not all of them. It's just like a giant puzzle, guys. That's all it is. One big puzzle. But little by little, we're getting it done. All right, guys, now we can go ahead and try to throw this in the car, see where everything's gonna lay out. All right, guys, this is what we got. Starting on the driver's side, working our way down. I'm probably going to have to get rid of this plastic around the harness because it does not want to fit under the seat. If I just use the wires, it'll fit under there. I'll have to cut this out too. These will go under the seat for the seats. Coming around, these are seatbelt or airbag. Gotta figure out which one's which. A ground, and then our antenna and speaker harness and third brake light. There's our speaker connectors. This coming up here. Speakers are gonna sit right in there. And then back here we have our fuel pump. I'm gonna have to extend that all the way to the back. On the S550, the fuel tank sits under the rear seats, so the fuel sender's on the other side or vice versa. I think the fuel pump's on this side. And then we have our tail light harness and that one module, the brake lights, tail lights, all that stuff. And then we'll come to the other side. And then we have our center console, lighting, parking brake, and another module connector. Only thing I couldn't figure out was these two guys. They almost look like they're antennas, but I haven't figured out where they go yet. So we'll take it down to the other side. So we got, this is the roof airbag. I'm not gonna be running airbags, but that's what that is. And then our, what do we call this earlier? The antenna amplifier. I put question marks because I don't know what that's about, what that goes to. That might be part of the defrost to the window. Could see that maybe. And then coming through here, same thing on this side. Gonna have to get rid of this. And I might be able to sneak this under there. It looks to be a little bit more room on this side because the driver's seat is sitting a little lower. So I might be able to keep this, the plastic piece on here. And then we got the rest of these guys going out of the dash. And I'm sure these are gonna connect up to these guys somewhere. That's probably my next move here. I gotta figure out where all these connectors end and where they meet with their mates. And yeah, we're just gonna keep moving on to it. Now there's the seat connector for the passenger seat. It's gonna go under. So it looks a lot better when it's in the car, you know, it kind of makes more sense versus outside sitting on the floor. But that's a start, guys. It's looking like I'm gonna be spending a lot of time on my back under here, just going through these connectors and trying to find where they end up. I might have to pull this dash out again just to get a better idea of what's back there. Might be a little easier than, you know, sticking my head upside down in there. So, also that huge module from earlier, that was like 7 pounds, whatever I said. That's gonna take up a lot of space over here. I don't have a lot of space as it is. So that's probably gonna go somewhere way up here, out of the way. Maybe even possibly sneak it right in there. But probably not a good idea because I gotta see what else is gonna sit back here as far as my radio and all those controls are. So I should probably wait on that. There's really not much to it, guys. I feel like most of the wiring is behind the dash. There's also one thing I wanted to note, guys. Now, for the most part, this harness is plug and play because I'm essentially taking an S550 and I'm throwing it in a foxbody. For the exception of a few things like the taillights and the headlights, the bulbs and the setup with the taillights are a little different from a Fox and S550, as well as the fuel pump. I'm not running an S550 fuel tank, so first thing I gotta do is extend these wires to the back, and also I need to adapt these wires to the Fox body style fuel pump assembly. As well as with the sending unit, I have to adapt that sending unit to work with the stock gauges. But I think I read that an S550 has 2 sending units, one on each side of the tank, or at least 2 sensors, and the computer averages those 2 sensors to give you a accurate fuel level. So that's going to be a challenge. I know Dakota Digital makes speedometer conversion, as well as converting different resistance values for sending units, and you know, to adapt gauges from different model cars and things like that. So they might have something for me in that aspect. I'm gonna have to email them, see what they got, something I can use. So just wanted to make that note. For the most part, it's plug and play, for the exception of a few things that we're gonna have to work with. I'm gonna end that video here, guys. I have a lot of figuring out to do with those modules, where I'm gonna place them. So in the next video, hopefully I'll have some of that figured out and we'll get working on the engine harness. If you guys enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.